Hey y'all, coming at you with another mid-gamer SSF video here. Gonna try to keep this short, go over the ally charge generation tech first. Should be some footage rolling. Essentially, the Mirage Archer with Armour Piercing Rounds produces infinite charges for the Martial Artist with Lochtonial Caress, but in this case, no Whirling Assault. I was trying to get away from that meta. And this allows me to use perma Oil Barrage, which, eventually you need to reset the Mirage Archer and the buffs. I know there's other ways of doing this. There's the A-list chimes, or there's that desecrated Arcane Surge mod on gloves, but those are more expensive and harder to get, and I don't have them playing SSF right now. But this allows me to use the perma Oil Barrage, or I can just kind of stand there, especially in this kind of content where you're just waiting in the middle, particularly nice for these breach hives. Then maybe at the end I'll do a quick build overview. Hopefully I can pump this out quickly. I've been busy with work and life, watching the World Cup, but I really want to move on to other ideas because this league has been very interesting and super fun so far. And jumping right into the game, I'm going to just try to show this off. This is following off on my previous video here. I've done this before, but this is the, I just roll, Mirage Archer, lots of charges, keeps shooting. And this is my favorite spot for testing these kind of mechanical interactions because I could just reset the checkpoint. So that's basically it. Following on my previous video, I tried using spears and bows. I thought maybe a rain of arrows would be good, but it's actually not as good as well, this time it did not proc as much. But the bows and arrows were not quite as good as this Armour Piercing Rounds with crossbow. For whatever reason, I thought that the rain of arrows would be super nice because it would fire a ton of arrows, but maybe it's due to the way that they can only hit certain targets and they're kind of spread out. This Armour Piercing Rounds is like 18 bullets or whatever per target per skill use, so I found this to be the most consistent and effective way of producing these charges. And in case you're not aware, this works due to the ascendancy with a Stone Fist. It transforms your gloves. So normally these Lochtonial Caress looks like this, share charges with allies in your presence. When you put that on with the Stone Fist, it gives you a chance to produce these charges to allies in your presence. So importantly, you need to be within the presence. You could spec into this. My presence is not that big. I may have spec'd into this a little bit, but that's basically a skill issue. You can spec into this a bit more if you want to, just to ease the load on your skill. But yeah, essentially you need to be within the presence area of your Mirage Archer. So I roll and I'm kind of out, so sometimes I need to backtrack. But anyways, that's the way that goes. And then I'm just going to show you this one last time. So there it goes, and I'm not doing anything. It's producing the charges based on the ascendancy and the unique gloves, which are very common to find. A couple other notes before the build overview. I forgot to add, the charge gen tech also works with other allies, but only martial allies. So this didn't seem to work with spell totems, but it does work with, for example, a Shockwave totem and Ancestral Warrior totem, and I believe it works with this Mortar Cannon, but that was actually more just for ease of use when I'm first swapping to my human form to do the dodge roll Mirage Archer, because typically I'm oil barraging, and then I need a button to switch back to human form from Mirage Archer and weapon set 1, so I just have the Mortar Cannon there, and it's serving other purposes, blind and such, not for damage. But it does work with martial totems. I believe it works with this Mortar Cannon, and I guess also Artillery Ballista, Siege Ballista. But again, Mirage Archer is the most efficient way with Armour Piercing Rounds, at least in this case. There's another one, I forget what it's called. But Armour Piercing Rounds has a lot of ammunition or clips in the bolts per skill use, and additionally this helps to break armor, which is nice for kind of partly physical based damage builds. In this case, my Oil Barrage is part fizz, part lightning, so it does help a bit with that. And here, what else have I done with this? Blind. There's a lot of crit scaling with blind on the tree. Chain is for more hits, cooldown recovery, and prolonged duration. So that's that. I did also want to note, I just found out this other video here. This guy, Gid Chicken Gaming, he found, sorry, Gid Gicken Gaming. I just saw this. I've been trying to figure out a way to use maces to produce charges too, but he did this cool thing with Shield Wall. So he slotted Shield Wall and Sunder into his hollow form, and that produces a lot of hits on the wall from the Sunder. Whereas if you're only using Sunder, it doesn't produce enough hits relative to something like Whirling Assault. Whirling Assault is by far the kind of most straightforward way of producing charges with the Lochtonial Caress, but I was really just trying to get away from Whirling Assault. It produces the most hits per skill use. I did try other things with spears like Rapid Assault, and that was not quite as good. The Whirling Assault, it just hits the whole screen like 8 times to 10 times per swing. There's 3 of them, so yeah, that's like, it's almost too easy. I feel like GGG might nerf the amount of hits per skill use for Whirling Assault, whereas basically nothing else in the game by itself works that way. But that Gicken's video shows that you can use, for example, Sunder with a Shield Wall. So the hollow form will alternate between Sunder and Shield Wall, and the hits of the Sunder on the Shield Wall is what produces the charges. And that's super genius. I might try to implement that myself in some way next, but I just wanted to point that out. And just talking about the build a little bit, this won't be a full in-depth build guide because at least the damage portion of it, the DPS part, is essentially just straight Oil Barrage. Check out the JMac for all things Oil Barrage. The reason Oil Barrage just has very good base scaling. These are all just utility gems, except Blindside, I guess, for a crit. The reason I went Oil Barrage, originally I wanted to, the idea was to incorporate Rampage somehow because I just wanted to blast through maps at some point. And I cheated SSF in order to do this. The one thing I cheated was this From Nothing Avatar of Fire, and this was pure kind of quality of life. So passive in radius of Avatar of Fire, all the way down here, and I just wanted this Roaring Cries. War Cries have a minimum of 10 power. If you're curious, check out Dreamcore's video about this Warcry power generation tech. That essentially allows me to Warcry once and it fills up my rage bar, so then I can rampage around. Easy peasy. Before I had cheated SSF to do that, I was kind of spawning the bells and then hitting them with Maul to generate the rage, and that was rather tedious every so often at the beginning of the map, so this was just pure quality of life to that From Nothing Avatar Fire. Otherwise, it is essentially a straightforward Oil Barrage build from a damage perspective. Before I was using this talisman, I was using the unique talisman, Lumbering something. Maybe I'll find that later. The reason I kind of kept going this way is because I was able to craft this with some nice RNG. So let me see here. So it kind of started like this with 4 mods, and I actually YOLO annulled the 2 prefixes off so that I was left with the crit and life leech, which was super nice. And then I just kept crafting it. I got a little, it wasn't like the most luck. At some point I then even YOLO whittled it. I had like 1 whittle. I YOLO whittled this accuracy rating off, and I believe that transformed it into either, yeah, I think that transformed it into a T2 Lightning, which is pretty nice, especially for Oil Barrage. It's lightning based. And then I desecrated it. Oh yeah, at some point I used the Perfect Essence of Battle, and it didn't roll off my crit chance, which was nice. This is that Lumbering Talisman I was talking about. It has like mid physical damage, and that was totally fine for taking down Arbiter of Divinity. It took a while, but it's able to do it. But then rolling this way, this was the kind of final version, was to desecrate it with this companion damage. I decided to do companion damage because the other kind of prefix desecrations are rather specific for talismans. And in this way, I also wanted to do this for the memes. So that's why I'm calling this Me and My Allies, because I also have this handy companion here, which comes from the chess piece. I dropped this the first time I defeated Bodak. It comes with this Spirit Vessel. And so I was like, oh, why don't we just add another ally? So I threw Oil Barrage into him as well, and then my charges go to him, and he is also Oil Barrage. He doesn't do giga damage or anything, but he does clear white mobs sometimes when I'm trying to TP out or something. And then also for super good for survivability, this, I don't know, I felt fairly tanky without much investment into defenses, just like regular investment into ES gear, EVES. This guy has given me pretty good tankiness, it feels like more than I think I would have with this level of equipment. I mean, the kind of Crown of Eyes doesn't have a huge amount of energy shield, and this is like this one I just, I think I used the Omen of Putrefaction, and I even forgot to quality it before doing this. So, it's not like my gear is super good or anything, but I feel quite tanky. Like I'm not doing like super juiced content, not super juiced expedition, but I do expedition, and I've gotten, Alder Sagas and Master Age Creativity, so I can take down those kind of 8 to 10 mod, whatever those are, remnants, without dying. So it is possible, but I'm not like doing super juiced, like unkillable mobs. I'm just playing at my own pace. So that's why I've called me and my allies, and then Oil Barrage. And then, yes, in terms of this, the crit scaling. So that's why I went with this companion damage, and then I just clicked this one node here, so that increases enemy reductions to companion damage also apply to you. And these are just kind of bigger than normal companion damage nodes. Otherwise, going into crit, so crit, a lot of crit to boost up the crit. This is big crit chance against blinded enemies, so that's why actually here the Mortar Cannon, the Flash Grenade blinds enemies, my Mirage Archer blinds enemies. I blind like 5% of the chance to, so most things are blinded, improving the crit chance. I think I'm close to 100% once blinded and dazed. The base crit chance now is what, 52.84. That's pretty good. Once you add in all this other stuff, plus the power charges from, you get the 26% from charge regulation. This this Timeless Sapphire was pretty good for SSF. I haven't even crafted this up fully because I'm kind of taking my time to learn all the stuff, so I decided not to fill out a lot of these mods. So this has a 7% increased crit chance per notable, and this is a common spot to throw something like this in. Has max energy shield and crit chance. It just kind of drop like this, and life and kill. Super nice. So I'm kind of waiting to figure out exactly what I want to do with that, for example, to get that up to whatever 5 mod duel with whatever else, double crit. But so far this is pretty good. I'm basically close to 100% crit chance with a decent amount of energy shield. This goes up whatever 20-something% once you get an endurance charge, which you will almost always have. And I feel pretty tanky. I have like 60 or 70 deaths, whereas last league with my Oracle I was getting up to like 400 deaths or something. So I'm doing much better this league than last league. What else? Just a few other things. I guess the Ascendancy. So you've got we have the Stonefists, which you need with the Lochtonial Caress for the charge gen tech. Runic Meridians, this is the last one I did, just because getting resistances was pretty tough, actually, on SSF. We got a lot of uniques. The Crown of Eyes is there for a little bit of damage scaling with, you get some bigger damage nodes like this. Before that, this was kind of like, 1.5 times my damage. It's not super important. I did also try considering doing a constricting command, running down to all the surrounded nodes down there, but that's a lot of travel, and it felt like I was losing survivability. I may test that again. But Oil Barrage has pretty good power scaling by itself, so there are definitely much further improvements than you could do if you wanted to take this build further. Again, check out JMac for that kind of stuff. Other things in terms of defenses, I got this Shavron's Satchel and then an instant recovery life flask here. So, you're doing a juicy expedition and you're getting hit, so I just spam the life flask and that recharges my energy shield, which is pretty nice. I tried going life leech, but at least at my power scaling, life leech with Valpact at least with my amount of damage, this was not sufficient. I died a few times while testing this out. Like each hit is not doing up to the 40,000 damage, the max damage that's allowed by Life Leech now, at least in terms of my power scaling. So that did not feel good to me. But if you have higher damage, you could do that, and you could you could just kind of stand there and leech back all of your ES. That was the idea. But I just found that Chevron Satchel pretty good. You just spam your life last once in a while. And then also the Wyvern has this kind of inherent 50% faster start of energy shield. So without investing into that too much, you get that little benefit there. And you also get the stun threshold and ailment threshold, which is nice when you're trying to channel Oil Barrage. And the big one, of course, is also Blasphemy plus Temp Chains. That is a big improvement on survivability. It just slows everything down, so you can get your Oil Barrage off, or you can just jump around if you need to make some space. And then I've also thrown on Refutation. This is common tech for the parry debuff on bossing or whatever. And blocking hits. Sometimes I push this if I need to, but it's mostly just there for the parry debuff on the bosses. Otherwise, I think that's it for now. I'll be moving on into something more interesting, hopefully. But again, this league has been super duper fun, and there's so many ideas to try. My watch list of like other builds to watch is super long. I haven't gone through everything. It seems like there's way more build diversity, maybe because they've like lowered the ceiling of the content so that it seems like more different builds can do all the things in the end game, at least now. And I'm sure later on they'll introduce harder content like they've already been doing with Expedition. And at least that for now, like I've been able to do Expedition to get some things like Astrich Creativity without having to do like super juicy stuff. So I can still get the things that I need to get without having to do all the crazy juicy stuff as an SSF player. Anyways, that's it for now. Happy hunting and peace out.